Alrighty, we are back. Had a little technical difficulties earlier. We're here. We're going to talk about demonetization. What is it? Why does it matter? How does it benefit you? How does it benefit your clients? How does it benefit society? That's what we're going to go through. So what is demonetization? Demonetization is the ability to drive prices down through use of innovation and technology. Core key distinction here, because from what I see, a lot of physical therapists, a lot of healthcare providers tend to have money mindset issues, and they want to price themselves super cheap. So this is not selling, let's say, a session for cheap. This is not selling a program for cheap. That's different. That's being cheap. Demonetization doesn't mean cheap, right? It's like we talk about the same price points too. Like we could be talking about $100 thing, and one is cheap, one is demonetized. What's the difference between that? The cheap thing is the product as it currently stands in the market, simply priced lower. So that is a race to the bottom. Who could be the lowest price for 1 hour of time is cheap. Demonetization is doing something that leverages technology and innovation to achieve the same or ideally better result than the current offering in the world. So let's say the sessions. So demonetization is saying, we're going to accomplish the same thing or better, obviously, ideally, that's what we're looking for. But for the sake of this analogy, we're going to accomplish the same exact thing, but in a new and different way, leveraging multiple types of delivery mechanisms. Therefore, the cost to get the outcome is less expensive. So that's very different. That is very different than being cheap. I am going to tell you that to demonetize, you do need to reimagine your skill set. You can't just demonetize a session. That's just like, that would be going towards cheap. So a couple fundamentals, like why is this important? One, when you do demonetization the right way, that assumes you have time leverage and you have technology involved, it frees your personal time up more. What you do with that personal time is you invest it into two categories: things that fill you up, things that take care of yourself, because we don't do that enough as givers in the healthcare profession. And two, you spend even more time making your process, your business, your unique mechanism, your intellectual property even better. That's honestly almost all I spend my personal time on now, is how do I make my businesses better? Because the outcomes of my businesses have nothing to do with the specific one-to-one nature of my time. Therefore, that freed up time allows me to live a better lifestyle. The better lifestyle I live, the healthier I am, the more time I have to get outside, the more time I have to exercise, the better I could show up, the better my bandwidth is to be able to give. And then I take the rest of that time and I reinvest it into the business and ask questions that somebody who just sold all of their time literally doesn't have the bandwidth to ask. So that's how demonetization helps you. How it helps the person, the client, is obviously that they save money. So again, we're not talking about necessarily cheap, we're talking about demonetized. Very few people, like we're lying to ourselves if we think charging $200 a session for any sort of healthcare solution is accessible to most of the world. It is not. And I'm going to say even just regular middle-class people are not actively in the position to shell out anywhere between $600 and $4,000 a month for rehab in a $200 a cash-based session. It's not good for them. It's not. And demonetization allows them to get the same outcome or better than those $4,000 worth of sessions, maybe for a $1,500 package that lasts 6 months. Whereas in the cash-based model, $1,500, 16, that's eight sessions. So that could be either just 8 1-hour sessions or a comprehensive multimodal delivery mechanism where maybe there's still some sessions, but there's pre-filmed education, habit tracker, nutrition guidance, fitness guidance, a community, all sorts of things, 24-hour turnaround time on support. You could load this thing up with such incredible features that it's incomparable, laughable to 8 1-hour sessions. 3 sessions a week is 1.8% of the person's week. It is laughable to think that we're going to make a change in that time frame, unless you're dealing with something very, very basic. Ankle sprain, you just need to give them some movement, some exercise to do. Yeah, maybe that's the exception. That's not the norm though. We're talking about chronic back pain. We're talking about women's health, pelvic floor issues, anything real, anything major worth solving is usually multimodal. And the research supports this. The research supports the biopsychosocial model, which expands well beyond just the exercises and movements we prescribe. That's what demonetization allows. Now, here's where it really starts to get exciting. And I'm a future cast. I love thinking about the future and the vision for the future of what it could be. And what I really think the future is us demonetizing to the point where we could leverage artificial intelligence and technology like chatbots and all of these other things and biometric monitors, where we can demonetize to an extreme level to help people in lower socioeconomic status communities, because that's what it's going to take. Even a $1,500 6-month program, compared to cash PT, super affordable. Compared to most people's deductibles, super affordable. We're talking about being cheaper than being more affordable. Sorry, I slipped, not cheaper, being more affordable than insurance-based care and more affordable than traditional cash-based care. But I believe that once we get to a certain level of scale, so once you're a business, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. So I see a lot of people disillusioned where they want to help lower socioeconomic status communities, but they don't have two key elements, time or money. And you need ideally both, but you need one of those two. If you have a lot of time, you could go and volunteer and go do some amazing things. Most of you do not have that. If you have money, you can fund the mission. You could donate. You could give to good causes. You could create your own charity. You could give it directly to the people in need. Most of you don't have that either. So what I see a lot of is the desire to help that community, but a disconnect from the reality that nonprofits are actually extraordinarily profitable companies that use their profits for social good. And we all have the power to do that with just a handful of sales at the appropriate amount of money for the people who could afford it. We can choose to start allocating a certain percentage of funds to invest into the future, where we can demonetize any number of ways for our low socioeconomic status community. So imagine, let's just use the ACL niche because it's a really popular one. Right now, somebody might be doing a 6-month return to sport ACL program that only a certain class of people are going to be able to afford. I'm much more accessible than the typical cash PT, but still out of reach for a large percentage of the population. Well, the owner of that business does need to put their oxygen mask on first, make enough money to be able to quit their job, make enough money to be able to provide for themselves and their family. And then from there, they can choose, if it's part of their mission, to now start investing in, once they have their time back. Let me clarify that. Once they've bought all of their time back, they could reallocate a part of their time to creating a demonetized strategy for the lower socioeconomic communities to be able to access amazing ACL care, either funded by the profits of the existing clientele or by funding the technology needed to make it accessible for $10 a month. And I do believe we're going to see that within 5 years. Within 5 years, maybe 10, if I'm wrong, we're going to see the combination of biometrics, AI, and chatbot-like technologies where we will be able to replicate ourselves and have algorithms based off of the input from the user around behavior trackers and workout logs, and especially with biometrics where you can't fake it. So imagine you get a program and your biometric tracker doesn't show any workouts in days. Well, that can just trigger an AI code to send the message from the chatbot saying, hey, what's going on? Everything okay? And then conversationally diagnose what's going on. And it could be escalated up to like a human overseeing. But imagine the bandwidth now. One human could oversee hundreds, maybe thousands of people going through this proprietary process, and all with amazing care, because it's only bubbling up to human level care when it's truly needed because of the nature of the artificial intelligence. I know this might sound like sci-fi or not real, but I know that this is the future. It's just a matter of when, not a matter of if. And sadly, healthcare is typically the last to evolve. And my hope is that if anybody's watching this live or in the replay, that you are going to be the first mover in this. I'm trying to be as well with my company Counterstrike, which serves fighters. We have an idea for a chatbot. We're going to name it Apollo, off the old Rocky movies. And It's an amazing vision, and we're always looking for ways to do it. But the truth is, like, my calling clinically is to serve fighters. We need all of you to declare who you're going to serve. And the way we start that super distant future cast is by serving the people in the niche now. Because 3 years into this serving fighters, I could start to see the algorithm. When they say this, we do this. When they have this training age and this set of injuries and this access to equipment, we do this type of program. So the only way that this has a possibility of even happening is if you start to do something other than just sell sessions and start creating unique mechanisms and intellectual property. Then we can start to figure out how to automate it later on. And then as we automate it, we can make it accessible to everyone. And the most extreme example of this, I imagine going to emerging markets around the world, I mean, third world countries who are developing, and giving them this iterated version of healthcare so they don't have to go through the learning curve that we went through and suffer, honestly, the massive failure that our current healthcare system is on all levels. Imagine that. That starts with you. That starts with you doing something different. That starts with you rejecting the norm. That starts with you saying, no, I'm not going to work at a mill. Or if you can't quit your job, starting your side project so that you could be directionally correct for this future and be a part of it, instead of waiting for a group of people like me and the people that I am going to inspire to do to prove it first. And if you want to be a part of that, if this excites you and you want to talk more about this, I've got another training, another follow-up training to give you. Just DM me innovation right now and I'll send it your way. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. If you did, drop a comment below. Give me your biggest takeaway. Give me a question. Hit me up with something in the comments. I'm out.